Okay, so we are going to introduce our first speaker, who is a survivor of melanoma, Joseph Rabbich. Joseph was born in Brooklyn, so was I, the same day the Holland Tunnel opened up, so I think I know how old you are. He served in the Army. You were a percussionist and formed an orchestra to give concerts in Europe and entertain a lot of dignitaries throughout the country. You were an instructor at FIT, worked as a contractor with the UN, giving advice to factories in pattern making techniques, and you opened a retail store with your wife in El Salvador. You have had a very interesting life. So, Joe, why don't you come up and tell us about your experience?
Whoops. I had a nice trip. I hope I don't fall. Thank you very much for inviting me. I thank God that He made it possible for me to survive cancer as well as my wife. My wife's name is Linda. She isn't here now. She's out selling jewelry. Oh, well, somebody's got to work in the family. But anyway, I feel honored that I will give you my testimony, my wife's testimony, and hopefully it will encourage others to pass on the message to anyone that has this illness, that if you think positive and you have that positive attitude and you don't accept defeat, you will rise above the illness that you have, and you will walk out and know that you are stronger from your experience. Now, we'll start with my wife. And in 1990, she was diagnosed with cervix cancer. And she was treated. They told her she'll have to go take chemo radiation. And so she did. And that was 10 treatments, 10 days in the hospital. She was young then. Matter of fact, she's 28 years younger than me. So she looks much better than me also. But anyway, she did the treatments and came home. And she was the type of individual that any aches and pains she kept in herself. She's very strong, and so that helped her survive. About several months down the road, or whatever it was, when she went for another examination, they discovered some lesions, and they said that upon further examination that she needs more treatments to shrink the lesions. Anyway, my wife is of Spanish descent, and her mother lives in El Salvador. She called her mother up and told her about what's happening. Her mother's a Christian, and she told her, do not go for the second round of treatment. She saw visions, and there is nothing there. Her faith was very strong. Ours weren't that strong at that particular time. And so she went for the second round of treatments. After, I think, another 10 days in the hospital, they told her that the lesions did not shrink and they're going to have to operate. And so she went for the operation. I think after 4.5 hours, the surgeon called me and he said, you know, there's a miracle. There was nothing there, nothing at all. Now, El Salvador is not right next door to the States. So what her mother saw was a more honest opinion and besides being emotional, she saw a vision that God had given her the faith that she could see that there was nothing wrong with her daughter. And that was remarkable. When the surgeon called me and said, it's a miracle, there was nothing there. So that's part of the having the faith that you can overcome any illness that you have by having that strong faith. It's been happening so many times all over the world. But she's talented, and also she's vibrant. She goes. That's all. Snow doesn't stop her, rain doesn't stop her, nothing stops her. Sometimes she has aches and pains, but you know what? In her prayers, that's the best medication that she can have. And coming to me now, and I'm not the star, but coming to me in 2009, I had dinner with one of my twin daughters at Artie's. That was a delicatessen on Broadway, and enjoyed the meal. And I told my daughter she wanted to put me in a cab, and I said no, I enjoy walking. And so I walked home that evening, and my daughter had called me just about the time I got home, and she said, you okay? I said yes. And she said, you know, you walk. My boyfriend, who's much younger than you, can't walk 5 blocks, and you walk miles. About maybe 10 minutes after I hung up the phone, I can't blame her for this, I told my wife, give me a baby aspirin. I don't feel well. So she did. And maybe about 20 minutes later, I said, give me another baby aspirin. I took that, and then the next voice was mine saying, call 911. Okay, they came within minutes and went to St. Luke's. And at St. Luke's, they decided that I need I'm having a heart attack. And so get wheeled into the emergency room, and then the surgeon told my wife, in the 40 years that he's been practicing, he's never seen a case like mine. And he said, call his children because there's no hope. Matter of fact, that surgeon is part of this hospital now. And he said that there's no hope for me. And so she called all the children. Okay, and I have 5 children plus grandchildren, but my 5 adult children and their spouses came. And when the surgeon told my wife that, she said, okay, you are not doing the operation. Stick out your hands. She praised him, and she said, God is doing the operation. And said, okay. You know, he pleased her, not in doing the operation, but in just the philosophy of it. And she said they wheeled me in, and while I was in the operating room, some of my children said to her, "Why are you having Daddy go through this whole procedure? You know, like just pull the plug." She told them, "If you don't think positive, out. You may not stay in the waiting room. You may not stay any place, but you go out. In this room, only positive." Well, whatever they did, I had a triple bypass. And about 2 or 3 days later, after they removed some of the wires or whatever, the doctor came in, the surgeon, and I was like sitting up, and I asked him, "How does he feel?" Well, he was amazed that I could speak. I stayed in the hospital for, I think, 7 weeks or so, but I kept asking to go outside. I don't like hospitals. I suppose a lot of people don't. And the food wasn't the greatest. Here, the food is good. And I'll tell you. And anyway, I went home. And as soon as I got home, I was supposed to recuperate. My recuperation is talking. My recuperation is doing. My recuperation is cooking. My recuperation is being very active, and also I go out, and almost every day I walk 2 to 3 miles a day. Even when it's cold, you walk because you have that inner strength that God gives you to say, walk. I gave you legs. I gave you everything you needed. Now, prove that what I gave you doesn't go to waste. And so, here I am. I'm going to be 90 years old, November 12th, and I was born the same day the Holland Tunnel opened up. I haven't received any money from them, but that's okay. But anyway, when you have that strong desire, then follow through. Don't accept an ache and a pain that lasts this long. Life is a circle, and life is beautiful. And so you accept the strength that you get from that. And so after the triple bypass, last July, I went to my doctor. I was feeling some pain. So I went to the doctor and I said, I got some pain. All right, the good doctor examined me, told me to take a MRI. They want to see what's happening. And they took the MRI and he said, you have pneumonia. I said, I don't have pneumonia. I can't afford it. I don't have it. He said, well, one other thing, we'll give you an x-ray. And they took an x-ray. And then when he called me, he said, you have cancer. See, I keep going up in the expensive stuff. So he said, you have cancer. And I said, okay. Now, what's the next? So he sent me to the doctor, the specialist, and I had lung cancer, I had a tumor, and I also had several ribs that had to be repaired. And I came to the hospital to do some, the surgery. And they also discovered when they gave me the Katuga treatment. Now, these are strange names, Katuga. I was a musician one time. I never heard that an instrument should be called a Katuga. Well, it was. I learned later it's a tremendous, tremendous advancement. President Carter had the procedure done on him when he discovered brain cancer cells. And so I had taken that, and they discovered that I had cancer in my brain also. 2 pea-sized cancer cells in my head. The worst thing with that Katuga thing is when you go in to get examined, they put a helmet on you, and then they put some holes in your head, and then they, tighten up the bolts or whatever. But anyway, I had that treatment, and I was also operated on the cancer, removing the lung and all that. And they told me that the operation was a success. But they forgot to tell me that I still needed some treatments. So I stayed in the hospital, and you heard me before, I would put this hospital in with the gourmet restaurants. The food is fantastic. I swear it. I ordered 2 of almost everything. It was a treat for me. But again, I asked the nurses, I must go outside. I don't want to stay inside. And they took me downstairs, and I walked a few blocks on several different occasions to get the fresh air. And I love people, and to see people talking, animated, whatever it is, that's so much life that you want to be part of it. You want to participate. And so I started, after I came home from the hospital, and that was I went in July 26th, I went home August the 14th, and then I was scheduled to do the treatments. The treatments were chemo, and so I took the chemo treatments and all that. And as you can see, because this is my diploma, I got this from the hospital today. My diploma lists all these things that I had, okay? And the word noted, resolve. Every one of the things that was, I had cancer, it is not here. It's all been resolved. And I was told that I am cancer-free. Cancer-free. And that is unbelievable. Unbelievable, that cancer. But, yes, I'm running over time.
A little bit.
Huh?
A little bit.
A little bit of time. Okay. It's a good thing I don't stutter. But, but anyway, I'm going to cut it short. Okay. But I don't have cancer anymore. And one other thing I want to say. When I went into service in 1950, the Korean War, and I was given this book. It's a prayer book, Hebrew prayer book, and it was given to me. I still have this, and I refer to this as to other Bibles, but this is my strength This is my food. This is my life. Because without it, I won't be here and I wouldn't have this wonderful opportunity to even present to you what a survivor can be. Just what it says, a survivor, somebody who is able to have that positive attitude and to say, I don't accept the illness. I accept the life you give me. I don't accept these little forks in the road. I thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.